And remember, we are keen to have your views, but let's go to this interview now. Cybercrimes are now included under South African law. President Cyril Ramaphosa has signed the Cybercrimes bill into law, which some parts of it have come into effect on the 1st of December. This criminalizes some harmful messaging on social media. Justice Minister Ronald Damula says this act consolidates all law dealing with cybercrime into one law that criminalizes all offences considered to be cybercrimes. For more on this, we're joined by social media legal consultant Lerato Ndwambe, as well as Yavi Madurai, who's the founder and MD of digital transformation company Black Box Theory. Good evening to you both, and thank you so much for your time. That intro alone appears to be quite a mouthful for somebody who doesn't understand what's going on, and they're probably wondering tonight, what exactly are we talking about? Let's talk then, Lerato, about the significance of the parts of the bill that came into effect on the 1st of December.
Good evening. I think the bill, the act now that has come into operation, is quite a few things, which is, certain cyber crimes such as hacking, cyber fraud, cyber sextortion. The list goes on, and also I think the most popular one that people have been discussing is malicious communication, which is basically some of the messages that you may be found, if convicted, you may be found guilty, are some of the three messages. The first one being inciting any kind of violence against any person or group of persons, and also threatening to cause violence or inciting some sort of damage to their property. And then the last one is also revenge pornography, which is disclosing intimate images of somebody without their permission.
Now, Yavi, I'd like to tie on what Lerato is saying then, because one of the things that people always argue on social media is that they've got freedom of speech. And for them, then, if they say whatever it is that they want to say, they should be allowed, because they're protected by the Constitution, to say something else. But we all know that no right is absolute, as it cannot trample on another person's rights.
No, sure. So, obviously I'm not the legal expert, but when it comes to social media, we have this sense of, or this belief system that social media is not regulated or there's no laws around it, and that is incorrect. Purely because the laws of the country, whatever laws they are, so whether that's confidentiality, whether that's confidentiality, doesn't matter. It still applies under the laws.
All right, I'll give you a second there, Yavi, just to grab some water and clear your throat. And Lerato, one of the things is that Yavi mentioned, which is quite important, is that people often think that what they're saying on social media is not regulated. And when a person then just posts, especially when you look at what has happened during the unrest, we saw some people then being rounded up based on what they had been posting on social media. Let's talk about the responsibilities then under this act for those who are making such statements on social media, and also the penalties that come with that.
Yeah, I think people, really go wild on social media, and they don't think of the consequences and the legal ramifications that actually come with certain things that we post on social media. And that is very unfortunate. And I am a huge advocate of actually digital literacy and teaching people actually how to be responsible on social media, because there are legal ramifications that will come. In terms of the specific bill, when we speak about malicious communications and those three messages that I spoke about, you could actually face up to 3 years in prison or a fine. The fine, unfortunately, has not been disclosed at the moment, because they are also working on regulations that will be able to guide us on actually how much the fine can be. But in terms of this bill, the act as it is, you can be fined imprisoned, or actually even both.
And Yavi, I'm not sure if you're back, but one of the things that Justice Minister Ronald Damula said is that this act is, the sections that have been put into operation are going to be quite key when it comes to capacitating police and making sure that they are trained when it comes to dealing with cybercrime. I wonder then, Yavi, if you are convinced that at a grassroots level this is going to translate, especially if we're still seeing a police service that is still battling with a DNA backlog.
So let's look at it not from a cybercrime perspective. Let's look at it from the perspective of things like GBV, because violence is violence, whether violence plays out online. So the thing that we forget constantly is that the physical world is merely a mirror of the online world and vice versa. There is no difference. It doesn't mean that because you operate in an online space that you are free to do as you want to, as you wish to. You are a human, you are part or a citizen of a country that has laws and regulations. Those laws and regulations apply to you as a citizen. So your activities and behavior on social media or anywhere online, you are held accountable. So it's the person, it's not the place, it's not the platform. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that when we look at it, and Lerato just spoke about, digital literacy. And my thing around it is, and please bear with me for 2 seconds,
yes.
is that so now we have a law. We've got tons of laws, right? It's the practice and application of those laws that matter. So when we look at it also, let's take responsibility as human beings before we go to the law, because a prosecutor, a policeman is only going to be there once something goes wrong. So let's try and prevent it before it goes wrong. So now we've got a Cybercrimes Act, not a bill anymore. Not every part of it has been implemented because there are still things that are going on. But the point is that we've also got to take responsibility. So it's Christmas in a couple of weeks' time. There's going to be parents all across South Africa gifting mobile devices and gifting tablets and laptops and Macs and all of these kind of things. But those same parents, and I'm just using one example, I'm not calling out parents, please don't get me wrong. But I'm just using an example to illustrate my point. But we are behind boomed areas and we've got security and we've got trackers on our cars. But then we go and give an unprotected device to a child, for example, have not put safe search, have not loaded certain things onto it. And then we're going to now say somebody has stolen money from my bank account and I don't know why, because I actually went onto a public Wi-Fi and I did my banking 3 days ago. So we have to start educating ourselves. We have to start understanding as citizens, as people, as human beings that are using the internet, that there's a thing called digital citizenship. So the way you behave as a citizen in South Africa is the way we need to behave online as a digital citizen. It's the same thing. We need to understand that we could be bringing those things into our lives without realizing it. So we must educate ourselves. So before we get to law enforcement, let us start with ourselves. Once we get to law enforcement, I don't know whether I am confident whether they're going to be able to enforce it. Who is going to train the police, the law enforcers? There's so many questions. There is so many questions.
So many questions indeed. But one thing that you mentioned for me that really grabbed my attention is what you spoke about, especially now inching closer to the festive season. Lerato, a lot of people, as you say, when you talk about cyber literacy, people are still not aware that using public Wi-Fi comes with certain risks. And as Yavi then points out, I mean, people are quite excited when they come into a public space and they see, ping messages saying that Wi-Fi is readily available. But they don't understand the implications that come with that, because you may find yourself becoming either vulnerable to hacking or find yourself with your bank account cleaned out.
Absolutely. I mean, Ravi, I think went into detail with all of those things, and it's very unfortunate, and that's why digital literacy is so important. Because as people, we like free stuff and we like convenience, and unfortunately, Wi-Fi has become such a commodity, and it's become such a need in our lives. And I think it's quite important that people just think before they post. Think before they even give their kids tablets. And, one thing that I like to say when I break down think before you post or before you share is that ensure that, is it true? Ask yourself, is it true? Is it hurtful or harmful? is it illegal? Is it necessary? And is it kind? Because all those three things, or all those five things, will actually cover you in terms of some of the legal ramifications that come with being online. For example, is it illegal? It is illegal to post somebody's intimate images without their permission. It is illegal for you to post personal information of somebody without their permission. So those things will be avoided if you just practice those five things. And as I think I definitely agree with Yavi when
all right,
she says that we need to take accountability first.
Oh, sorry, Lerato, your connection started freezing there. Yavi, as a final question, then we out of time. I wonder, tonight as we talk about this, I'm listening to Lerato talking about being kind, think before you post and all of that. But we all know there are those that are hiding behind anonymous accounts. There are those bots that are going to be saying all sorts of things to us and, that are hurtful because they're hiding behind those anonymous accounts. And I put that in inverted commas. How then is this act going to deal with that? And how do people then begin to try and find those behind these accounts?
So it comes down once again to being able to be aware and educate yourself. We don't drive cars without going for, our driver's license and learning how to drive a car. We do certain things in our lives in order to be able to capacitate us to live better, to be better, to, empower ourselves. So in the same way, we need to be able to empower ourselves to understand what this law is about and how does it work. If you are part of WhatsApp groups, and WhatsApp groups are I won't say, but they are a crazy space, and Lerato will bear me out, I'm sure. So the WhatsApp groups, there are so many things that get posted on there. And 9 out of 10 times, those things are illegal. But we don't even know that and we're busy posting it, probably unaware that you have done something to break the law, so to speak. But having said that, now we have an actual law. So before that, it was a bill and people were talking about it and it was, there's a bit of a gray area. Now it's not. Now it's black and white. So we've got to start understanding the way we would not drive through a red light, the way we would not rape somebody just because. It's the same. We've got to think, what are the things that we can't do from a behavior perspective and educate ourselves and be aware of what that means and what it applies to our devices, ourselves as human beings, and the places that we visit online. So those are the three things that we need to take into consideration, because it's not just that you are separate from your behavior, or that because it is a social media platform, it's free for all. You've got to understand they're all connected.
All right. Thank you, ladies, to you for your time this evening. Certainly, you've got us thinking. I mean, right now, I'm sure somebody who's watching, especially parents, as you said, Yavi, who are thinking about gifting their children cell phones are now going to need to think about the responsibility that comes with those devices. Thank you so much to you both for your time this evening. That was Yavi Madurai, who's the founder and MD of digital transformation company Black Box Theory, as well as social media legal consultant Lerato Ntwampe, who were talking to us about the Cybercrimes Act, which is now underway. Think before you post.